B'shus Maranan B'Rabbanan B'Rabbaisai, particularly the Rosh Yeshiva of Shustel, of Hershkowitz, who by their presence here tonight underscore the cheshivas of what Project Inspire is doing. And I myself feel it's an honor to be here and to give whatever little chizuk I can to the Melech HaShamayim that you're all doing. The chairman, Mr. Schaaf, was Magazim, of course, like all chairmen have to do. And what he said is a challenge to all of us, and not exactly an accurate profile of myself. Chaboisai, the movement of Kirov that began some 30, 40 years ago and has engendered in the lives of people so much change, so much inspiration. Even though, in terms of the entire picture of the American Jewish community, it's still only a drop in the bucket. But nevertheless, the progress that's been made, the chizuk that has been given, the spiritual nourishment that people have received from connecting with other Jews, more fortunate in the sense that they have already established bonds of Amunah and Kiyum HaMitzvahs with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That entire phenomenon known as Kirov is something that we should think about at a juncture, at an occasion such as this. Every older person remembers the end of the war 65 years ago. And I often think, as I do vividly remember that period in our history, I often think of the Chedush Rim's word, one is to have a hisbonenus, an insight into the meaning of a specific generation even. If Hashem Yisborach planted us at this time of history, in our generation, it means that there's something for us to be mindful of, the times we live in, to have a hisbonenus, to think, to inquire, to have an insight in the meaning of our dor. And some of us, as I said, in the older generation, will look back and remember what were the feelings of Jewish believing Erlich Yidden at the end of the war. And I can tell you that not only did we mourn, not only were we shattered at the prospect of an entire European Jewish civilization that suddenly came to an end, and the churban that occurred in Klal Yisrael. That was, of course, the most important, the abject feeling of despondency, of avelus, that overtook us all. Because we're used to this period of history, at least to talk about it. But those who lived through it, and those like myself who didn't live through it, but were here in this country and heard about it and lived with the news and lived with the Sheikhs Apleite Yidden that came and told us what happened. Not only was that Churban the most overtaking experience of the entire Klal Yisrael at that time, but there was something else also, that gnawed at our feelings, and we all asked ourselves, was wird sein weiter? Hasichenu ha'atzom Yisraela. We're a band of Jews, atzomas hayaveshes, dry bones. How will the Klal Yisrael live again? Those who remember pre-war America, pre-war Jewish America, will certainly testify to the fact that yes, there were from Jews and there were yeshivas and there were people, without mentioning any names, of Gedolim, Aktanim, Rabbonim, Balabatim, but there were people on the front lines of Yiddishkeit. But it was still, compared to the old country, a much more shallow level of Erliche Yiddishkeit, of Amunah, of Shmiras HaMitzvahs, Limud HaTorah, Yiras Shamayim. It, by no stretch of the imagination, was it then as it is today in our camp. And at that time, nobody believed, nobody in their wildest dreams could believe and imagine that the nechama which HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us in the last 65 years in our machna could at all take place. Who would have believed that the Olam HaTorah would resuscitate itself, that our families will once again begin to produce thousands of Yiddish mishpachas, Yirei Hashem, in our midst, yes. Outside of our machna, as we all know, there's still a wasteland. But within our machna, Hayahadus, Baruch Hashem, we've seen in these last 2-3 generations the great nechama of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we can't fail for a moment to understand and to appreciate and to have a hisbonenus in that nechama. The Navi says, Al tismechi o yaftili, ki nafalti kamti. The Navi addresses the enemies of the Jewish people. Don't rejoice, my oivim, my sonim, ki nafalti, but kamti. I got up again. Ki esha b'choshech, Hashem oir li, a pasuk in Amos. And the Chazal say, Ilmoli nafalti lo kamti, Ilmoli lo yashavti b'choshech l'hoya Hashem oir li. Somehow, the Churban became the seeds of the future Tchias HaMeisim in a spiritual sense that we all lived through. And therefore, this historic phenomenon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made happen in our generation, in our tkufa, is something that we would have, in a previous period of time, believed incomprehensible. It can't happen. As Kenish Zayin, we were all in a state of Yush then. But without going into details, and without showing example after example, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his Hashgacha Pratis, pointed a finger at his emissaries, his shlichim, the great Gedolim Tzadikim who came to this country, those who lived in this country before, and they rebuilt the Klal Yisrael. And Amcha, the great army of Jews that did live here, inspired by the Sheikhs HaPleita Yidden, they triggered our Tchias HaMesim. And today, 65 years later, we look back and we look around us, and I can't believe my eyes. Anyone who's witness to the flourishing of yeshivas today, Baruch Hashem, to Ahavas HaTorah and Yiras Shamayim that takes place in our camp. And I say again for the third time, outside of our camp, and that's why we're here tonight, to consider the relationship between our camp and the wasteland around us. But in our camp, nothing less than Tchias HaMesim took place. And this is the Hizbonenus that the Chosherim talks about on the Pasuk, Binu Shnois Der B'der. Man darf ob ma Hizbonenus in jeden Dor. Man darf verstehen dem Dor. We have to delve into the meaning and into the challenges that each generation presents us with. So how do we thank Hashem Yisborach for all that He's done for us? So what do we do about all this? Are we to sit back complacently and saying, I thank the Eibishter, Baruch Hashem, we've arrived at such, through a great deal of hard work and investment of koiches to rebuild our Meistes HaTorah, our Batei Chinuch, to reinforce all the institutions of Yiddishkeit. Today, Amol gewinnt schwer zu sein a Yid. Heinte sehr gering zu sein a Yid. All the facilities of Yiddishkeit are delivered to us on a silver platter. Everything. Everything. There isn't one. A bacher comes into a yeshiva and begins a mesechta, and he buys himself a kaivetz mefarshim, and he has all the Rishonim and Achronim there. He doesn't have to get up from his seat. We have today, Baruch Hashem, kashrus lemahadrin. Our chinuch system has been blessed with the finest mechanchim or mechanchos, and we're proud of our generation of children that has grown up to be mevakshi Hashem, oya beit Torah. Yes, there are corners where we see problems. I learned a new word in the last 10 years. When I was younger, people had problems. Now they have issues. There are issues in our community. But on the whole, wir dürfen doch tanzen von Simcha. We ought to rejoice with all our might. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for us in these last 65 years. Hizbonenu, Binu Shnois Der B'der. So, it's one thing to say, and it's true, and it must go on, the reinforcement of our life as a generation of that considers Ahavas Torah and Yiras Shamayim to be the primary value of life. But the Hashgacha has also shown us in the last 30 or 40 years where this, at the time that our new Hatzlacha and rebuilding ourselves as a Torah community was beginning to take shape, was becoming strong. The Hashgacha has shown us, has opened up windows for us to begin to think about other Jews as well, who have not been so fortunate in experiencing such a renaissance because they never knew what Yiddishkeit is to begin with. So they didn't experience this Tchias HaMeisim of Torah Yiddishkeit that all of us did in the Machna HaTorah in this country. And that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, again through his shlichim in the Klal Yisrael, planted in our neshamas a certain challenge, a certain project, a certain vision. We have to begin to think about other Jews as well. And not only to think about them, but we have to revise certain attitudes that we may have been living with all this time. And some of our attitudes and relationships and opinions have to perhaps be smoothed out or revised in the way we approach in our minds other Jews that know little about Shabbos and Kashrus and Yiddishkeit and so on. The Pasuk says in Shir HaShirim, the Knesset Yisrael talks about itself. Shchoyer ani v'nova b'nai Yerushalayim. I am black. I don't appear as nice, but v'nova. I'm still attractive. Shchoyer ani v'nova b'nai Yerushalayim. Ki yaholei kedor kiriyai shloimai. The tents of the Bedouins have been blackened by the glare of the sun. But as the Chazal explain, but they also can be made to look like Yiriyai Shloimai. They can be purified, they can be rinsed. So Shchoyer ani b'maasai, there's much failure that I can point to in myself. But v'nova b'maasai avoisai. Shchoyer ani b'maasai ha'egel, v'nova ani b'nasa v'nishma, and so on as the Medrash continues on that pasuk. So the Klal Yisrael analyzes itself. Shchoyer ani v'nova. There are two sides to myself. There's Shachrus and there's Noi. There's blackness and there's beauty. Comes along the next pasuk and says, Al tiruni shani ishkach chayres. Mi beten zach bam Rebbeinu shel Olam, but don't look at my blackness. Sheish nafasti hashemesh. It comes from the outside. B'nei imi nicharu bi. These are alien forces that crept into me, the Erev Rav that came from Mitzrayim and so on. Samuni neitero es akromim. They made me watch other vineyards, and therefore kam misheli lo natati. What's the pshat in them pasuk? First, we say about ourselves, Shchoyer ani v'nova. We have a double characteristic. Shchoyer ani v'nova. Aber al tiruni shani ishkach chayres. Don't look at me as being black. Don't judge me by my blackness, by my outer appearance, because it's not something intrinsic within me. It's not something that comes from my pnim. B'nei imi nicharu bi. It comes from the forces of the environment. It comes from the Umas Ha'olam. It comes from those alien values and people and forces that somehow crept into our lives. This is how Klal Yisrael depicts itself. Samuni neteros akromim. We're being busy with other people's vineyards, and we forgot about our own. So the people who need our kiruv, the neshamas are crying this out to us. Yes, at first glance you may see me as shcheirani, but that's not the real me. They can't articulate it because their beauty is buried deep in their neshamas, and they're sometimes not in tune with their own neshamas because their neshamas are imprisoned. And it's our responsibility to bring that out. Don't look at me that way. If I do appear rather unattractive in the ruchniistic sense, it's because the Messiah have gotten to me. Because the Gullus and later times have caused us, by Yisovu Bagoyim, by Yilmadu Masayim, says the Pasuk, we've gotten mixed up with other cultures. And we've learned from those cultures to watch and pay attention and to put their agendas at the top of our priority list. And Kalmi Shalila in the Torah. So we have to make them appreciate our Kerem Beis Hashem, the Kerem of Klal Yisrael, so that their inner depths, their neshamas begin to feel the meaning of their real souls. A few weeks ago, I was in Eretz Yisrael to visit the Bochum. I go every year, the Bochum at the Yungalayt of our yeshiva that lives there. So the night before I left, we all went to the Kaisel Maravi. And as usual, when you come to the Kaisel, on the one hand, you feel so close to the Shechina Akdosha. You stand so close at the Har HaBayis, so close. And yet, there's a Kaisel Hamafsik. There's a Mechitza. Al Zeh HaYadav Libeinu, Al Eila Choshchu Aneinu, Al Har Tzion Sheshomim, Shuolim Hilchu Boi. So we feel a closeness, but we feel so distant. There's a mechitza. We're not permitted to go al Har Tzion Sheshomim. The Shuolim drehen sich dorten. Lama lenetzach tishkachenu, we say at the end of Eicha. Ato Hashem lo'olam teishev. The Shechina Akdosha remains on Har Tzion no matter who is there. But Lama lenetzach tishkachenu tazbin v'leirach yamim. So I mentioned this to the Bochrim. They were standing in a certain corner there, inside. But then another idea occurred to me. In Shir Hashirim steht euch, in connection to Yetzias Mitzrayim, Chol doidi hine zebo, medalig alahora mekapes alagvois, doime doidi letzviya loifach hayolim, hine ze oimed acha kosleinu. There's another kaisel that's mentioned there in Shir Hashirim. Hine ze oimed acha kosleinu, mashgiach min achaloinois, meitzitz min hacharakim. And of course it means that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to redeem Klal Yisrael and Mitzrayim, Medalig alahora, Mekapes alagvois, skipped over the cheshbon of 400 years. There was still a Kaisel Hamafsik. We know the state of being of Bnei Yisrael and Mitzrayim before Yetzias Mitzrayim wasn't exactly a picture of beauty in the Ruchniyizik sense. They were, as the Svarim say, in Memte Shari Tumah. There was a kaisel hamavsik. Hine zelaymed achakos leidu, the Rabbi Shalom was behind that kaisel looking at us. But the pasuk says, how did he see us? How was he able to observe us? Mashkiach min hachalonos, meitzitz min hacharakim. A kaisel sometimes has windows. You can look straight through the kaisel. And when he saw the Shevet Levi in Mitzrayim, he saw tzaddikim. And he saw Moshe Aaron. And he saw the Skenim. It's easy to be a mashgiach manachalonis and you see the tzaddikim. But sometimes you also have to look more closely to be a meitzitz manacharakim. You have to look through the cracks to see those who you can't see through the chalonis as tzaddikim. You have to peek through those charakim into the depths of their neshamas. And Chazal tell us, it's Targum Yonis and the Pasuk, Vayar Elokim is Bnei Yisrael, Vayed Elokim. The Rabbeinu Shalom on the one hand saw the Bnei Yisrael and their toil and their shibud and their tzoros and their yisurim. But by Yeda Elokim, he knew also that secretly the Targum Yonis said they're all doing tshuva in a sense that one doesn't even know from the other. Das heißt Meitzitz Menacharakim. So when there's a kaisel that's mafsik from one side to the other, and this applies to ourselves and the way our attitude towards other Jews. In our machne, there is no kaisel. We're all united. Wir sagen alle Shema Yisrael together. But sometimes there is a kaisel that's mafsik between one Jew and another, between one group and another. So you have to choose, first of all, to be a mashgiach menachalonos and pick out those people whom you know already will be able to share your values with chizuk. If you inspire them, if you make them feel that you and they are really brothers. Kulanu b'nei ish echad nachnu. I tell the Bachram always to give an example how people who are so different, look so different, behave so differently, and the Klal Yisrael is divided into 12 Shvatim. Auf dem schönsten besten Reifen. Yehuda is not Shimon, and Yisachar is not Zvulun, and Binyamin is a Zev Yitzchav, and so on. But Kulanu, we're all united, having the same Father. Take sunlight and pass it through a prism. You'll get all the colors on the spectrum, right? But it all comes from the Shemesh. In this world, how it's received, how it's differentiated in the Olam HaTachton, causes it to become red, blue, yellow, and so on. But in its shayrish, it's all ma'uchad in the shemesh. And that's how we are to view one another. So it's easy to be a mashgiach menachalonos and find people who share your hashkafas achayim, your hashkafas atayra, your Yiddishkeit, and you sit with them in the sukkah, and you verbring with them together. This is the Chiano Shemachem Anochnu. But there are those, and every Jew is one of those, to whom you have to be a meitzitz menacharakim. You have to peek through those crevices in the wall, and down deep you'll discover that the pnim is kulach yofer ayosi umum ein boch. Here the Bnei Yisrael says about itself, Shchoyer ani v'nova. I have both attributes. I'm Shchoyer, I'm Nova. Al tiruni shani shchachoyres. And several psukim later, after the Rabbeinu Shalom pours out his ahava v'chiba, the Klal Yisrael, kulach yafer al yosi, umum ein boch. Is there a stira between the psukim? No. On the outside, it's shchoyer v'nova. But the pnim is kulach yafer al yosi. Because the pnim, the neshama, that's which is ma'achet the Klal Yisrael. The Tanya writes in Perek Lamed Beis that the mitzvah of Abbas Yisrael is when one feels neshamadik connected to another Jew. Oisam ha'oisam es neshama ikya v'aguf tfeila, it's easy for them to have Abbas Yisrael. Because mitzad nishmaiseinu, to the midach eins, it's the gufim that divide us from one another. Oisam ha'oisam es gufam ikya v'nafsham tfeila, oh, they have a problem. Because the guf is the obstacle. Because the guf, the body, each body has its own needs, its own ego, its own agenda. So, in order to be a meitzitz menacharakim to another yid, you have to connect with him neshama-wise. Yes, it's easier said than done, but that's why we're here tonight, to give ourselves chizuk that it can be done. To be a meitzitz menacharakim in noch hayid. Wie er lieb zu haben noch hayid. Now I think that's the attitude that presupposes the work of Kiruv, the attitude that we have towards another Jew. How do we look at him vis-a-vis ourselves? Do we look at him, we're doing this fellow a favor, we're teaching him how to make a moitzi. We're looking down at him, but if we look at him, we're basically one, united in the same Shemesh U'Mogen Hashem Elokim, in the same Shemesh. No, when the rays of the sun diverge from the Shemesh, the further they are away from the Shemesh, like the angles coming from a certain point, the longer the lines are away from the original point, the further they are away from one another. So in being Mekarav another Yid, and having the attitude towards him as he and I are united in the same source. So we begin to see, in terms of the neshama, kulach yofer hayosi. Hat sagt, sein Pnim hat sich nicht was zu schämen. Mit meinem Pnim. It's only the exterior that has somehow formed as a result of the different kramim that people watch, that people attend to, the different cultures. Samoni neteras akramim, kalmi shalilei netoti. So these people, their neshamas are really crying out for help, for chizuk, for kiruv. And that's why we're all here tonight. And I must tell you, I don't have the opportunity to engage in kiruv. As one time or another, people come to the house, I meet people from here and there, but I don't have the schus. I don't have the I was going to say I don't have the kayak, but that's probably not true. Maybe it is. I don't have the opportunity, as most of you do, to connect with other Jews that are longing for this kind of kiruv, whose neshamas are crying out, Al tiruni shanish chachoyres. And your response has to be, Kulach yofer hayosi u'momein boch. So these are the thoughts that I think should be uppermost in our minds when we engage in the work of Kiruv. The work of Kiruv has many drachim. There are many ways, there are many tachsisim as to how to do Kiruv, by studying, by inviting people for Shabbos. There are all kinds of ways. You know them a lot better than I do. A lot better than I do. Only the practitioners of Kiruv are the experts on how to do Kiruv. Ich kann nur stehen da und halt nach Drosche. But you know by experience a lot better than I do what it is to make people get turned on to HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Teirosai. But I just, since I was invited here, and I consider it a privilege and a schus to spend this hour with you tonight, so I meant to convey one or two thoughts as to how our minds should approach the vision, the task, the challenge of Kiruv. And I'll just close by saying, Malech of Naim Nachas and Bracha in your own work, in your own families, in everything you do. And the schus of being able to be Makarav of the Jews, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is certainly one of Eichlam Peraseyim Ba'olam Hazeh, V'Hakeren Kayemes L'Olam Haba, Yerotzen Shetishre Shchina B'Ma'aseh Yadechem.
Rabbi say we are witness to tremendous Mesiras Nefesh on behalf of the Nasi of Agudas Yisrael, the Noviminsker Rebbe, soll gesund sein. Gekommen als Ashpete Shah, coming from New York. It's really a tremendous cover. We have to have tremendous Hakar Sataiva. And befrat with the Ishtatvis of the Stanford Rashi Yeshiva, soll gesund sein, Rabbanim Agoinim, who are here with us also to give us chizuk.